Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Appreciate the discussions. My name is Matt Buchek. Couple things. First thing is that I would have to say a growing majority is more and more suspicious of SEL as things go forward. The presentation was nice. It had a lot of pretty words. There was absolutely zero detail. We don't know what's going on still. So we're concerned, we're watching. All good ideas, but they don't tell us anything yet. I would like to know, when are we able to evaluate the program for ourselves? And if there are not certain specific things that we can measure, the parents will find things to measure, and you probably won't agree with them. Okay, that being said, I, in general, very much appreciate the response to the recent reports involving firearms, whether it be a toy gun or verbal threats. However, unfortunately, the incidents in August and October were reported days after the events took place. Appreciate the discussion that was made earlier about that. Obviously, that's concerning because no fault to the school, but what you don't know, right? With regards to the most recent event, the principal at Northeast on Thursday, October 6th, was sent out a memo that a teacher was notified and then administration about an incident that took place 3 days prior on Monday, October 3rd. One 13-year-old student threatened other students on a bus. It was unclear, but the statement from MPS and Midland PD tell us that the threat involved a firearm. The Midland PD said they found no weapon, and the police said they, and I quote, believe the student did not have access to a firearm, end quote. From the information shared publicly, you have to infer that the threat was verbal and that the student came from a home where firearms were absent or they were secured. So the police were called on 10/6, 3 days after a 13-year-old allegedly used words to threaten students on the bus. Others were able to corroborate the threat, which I appreciate. 3 days after the words were used, police searched the student's belongings at the school, arrested the 13-year-old, and put the student into our juvenile butterfly camp. I'm not saying I approve of what the student did. I'm just trying to put you guys in the position of that family or that student. Even the Midland prosecutor released a statement telling the community how serious they take threats. He did not say that this threat was necessarily serious. Of course, we don't know. The general consensus was that this was the right move, and I hope it was. However, I do have a couple thoughts. Were the words used in self-defense? Was the story collaborated? The story was collaborated by others, but was the student being bullied by the group? Why would anybody make a threat like that, right? I mean, it's hard for reasonable people to think that. So was it because they were being bullied? Certainly there was no gun. It was reported 3 days later. Okay, I'll end there.
Thank you.
I think you get the point.
Tony, I assume, same situation?
Yeah, I kind of want to say something.
Well,
But
please.
It's probably premature, but,
Thank you for being here.
thank you for allowing me to be here. I guess what I'm thinking forward to if proposals get passed and what may happen. And a proposal that I'm concerned about is Proposal 3, which would allow abortion and much more than that. And I'm just hoping that all parents are aware that this proposal could take away parental rights. So that, let's say, if a child wants to come to a teacher or go to a counselor or one of these people that the lady was discussing, because say they want to transition from a male to a female, or they want to get an abortion, this proposal, if it does go through, parents are going to lose their rights. So I guess I'm thinking ahead and trying to be proactive, and I'm standing up here because I'm hoping parents that may be watching this that aren't here will be aware of what Proposal 3 is about and to investigate it further.
Okay.
And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Renita Bonides. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. This is my 9th month to speak, so I'm not new to the board. 15th month to attend these meetings. I, along with many others, have tried to shed some light on a variety of topics, including bylaw abuses, Freedom of Information Act, Open Meeting Act, personal health choices, lack of transparency of this board and superintendent, and the agendas being pushed by you and your community business partners. It has been quite a journey as I dug into the education system that exists in this district and all the way up to the State Board of Education. I was very disappointed and disgusted to find how the education system I thought was teaching our kids about the basics to become healthy and knowledgeable graduates has instead become a system to destroy and abuse these children on many levels. I would say that the individuals on this board probably ran for these positions with the best of intentions and with the children in mind. It seems that something must change the focus of elected officials once they become part of the system. Whether it is the money and influence of the community business partners or the money that flows through the ways that it did during the pandemic, the outcome is not very encouraging. But I would like to thank all of you for your time in the recent transparency. The agenda to put one group of students and ideology above all other students has become quite clear. There is really only one group that has received excessive spending, their own coordinator and advocate, and plenty of resources across the board. School is to be for the betterment and education of all students, not just those that fit a certain narrative and agenda. When will the schools get back to teaching the basics? The amount of time, energy, and money I have heard about over these past months make it very clear that only a couple of groups matter most. The rest are to just stay in their lane, be quiet, and let you collect the education dollars because they attend MPS. It always seems to be about the money. It is for these reasons that I fully support the parents that are standing up to take the 3 positions on the school board, Mindy, Sarah, and Jimmy. It's time for the others to step aside. Finally, I have a scripture about the children, and I believe relevant to those who have taken an oath to protect the children. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea, Matthew 18:5. And a reminder for all of us, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction, Proverbs 1:7. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb, is it Plaver?
Correct.
Hi, Deb. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. This is first to the silent board on this side. Hi, my name is Deb Plaver, and I am here for 3 reasons: to highlight that if Michigan Proposal 3 passes and becomes part of our Constitution, minors will be able to pursue both gender transition and abortion not only without parental knowledge or consent, but also without any interference. And secondly, to highlight that social acceptance and anatomical changes do not necessarily reduce the confusion and likelihood of suicide. And lastly, to ask that MPS focus solely on academics, leaving gender confusion for parents and mental health professionals to work through. A study in San Francisco, where transgender identities are widely accepted, found similar mental health problems among transgender people. 32% reported that they had attempted suicide. In a 2020 pediatrics article, those who received puberty blockers were worse on mental health outcome measures than for those who did not. They were also twice as likely to have had a suicide attempt, resulting in hospitalization in the last 12 months. Reanalysis of a 2019 Swedish study found that hospitalizations after suicide attempts were nearly twice as high in the surgery group as in the non-surgery group. So in other words, so-called affirming medical interventions, including hormone therapy and surgery, have not been shown to reduce the risk of suicide for those who identify as transgender. With the widespread media attention to LGBTQ, we are sowing confusion. In the United Kingdom, since 2009, government services are dealing with a 400% increase in children under 6 dealing with gender identity issues, and a 2,000% increase for those under 18. However, the encouraging data point is 75 to 95% of children after passing through puberty who had expressed confusion about gender outgrew it. Two statements from a detransitioned woman summarize the misinformation of transgenderism. Quote, "I was introduced to a belief system that if you don't fit in, then that is a sign that you're trans. If you don't like your body, then that's a sign that you're trans. And if you transition, all these problems will be fixed." In another quote, I had a ton of issues with my academics and my mental health, but I never really got help with that. As soon as I said I was trans, it was all hands on deck. So in conclusion, I restate my hope that MPS district employees, apart from legal constraints caused by the passing of Proposal 3, will never encourage or support gender transitions for minors, especially without parental knowledge and consent. And the focus of MPS for all students will remain on academics alone, for that is the path with the best potential for achievement and stability in life. Counseling and identity issues should remain a discussion between the parents, child, and their doctor. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa McGaw.
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi there. Good evening.
Joe Bonadies.
Hello. I need to do a little cleanup on some issues. First, congratulations, Phil. I recall the meeting where the board nominated you to be on the Michigan Association of School Boards, but I don't recall it ever being mentioned here that your nomination was accepted. You revealed this at the League of Women Voters event. I would like to remind you that the MASB has not distanced itself from the National School Board Association like 25 other states after the fiasco of calling parents speaking out at school board meetings domestic terrorists. Might not be the best fishing ground for best practices, but good luck. And two, thank you to John Lauterbach at that same candidate event. There had been a lot of discussion about transparency. John provided a description of the board being the eyes and ears of the community and that we needed to stay in our lane. Well, you're batting 500, as you certainly stay in your lane, and your bylaw encourages you to get painted in a very narrow lane. Not having access to subcommittees where the decisions made by the administrators get their preliminary rubber stamp means most things are cloaked behind the public perspective. Half the meetings and less public comment time gives less chance to hear the public, and if you did not look at your computers and smile so much, we might actually think you were listening. You make it clear that this is your meeting and the public are spectators. To illustrate, my wife Renita did a FOIA request for all communications for anything containing her first or last name. The response was to return only those messages from my wife to the board or superintendent. However, it omitted a message from the superintendent to a citizen, a third party, which was copied to the full board. The message contained the following sentence: "I can speak for myself, Mrs. Bonadies has lied and shared false information multiple times," unquote. Yes, her name was spelled correctly. I mentioned this at the February board meeting. However, the April FOIA to both Kyle and later Mr. Bruton twice said we gave you everything. This was a test after you were trying to charge $14,000 on a FOIA request for several months of communication early in 2022. If you are seeing a few less FOIA requests, it's because we have no faith you would give us anything incriminating like defamation of character. And we did notice that you stopped labeling FOIA requests. They're now just letters on the agenda. I will return the remainder of my time to the Superintendent Defense System. Thank you.
John Kowicki.
I tell you, I love Midland. This is a special community. But I'm concerned about the direction of the school, especially K through 5. Oops, I forgot my prop, sorry. About a month ago, my wife and I were watching an episode of The Adventures of Superman. And after the introduction was over, she said, "We've all been indoctrinated." So I brought this. At the end, you'll see George Reeves in his leotards with his Superman and a giant flag in the back, blowing in the wind. True, in the close, truth, justice, and the American way. And what I've learned is that truth's pretty hard to find anymore. You got to dig for it. So I've been evaluating my time in the Midland school system, and I want to give recognition to Lloyd Osborne in 8th and 9th grade. Now, in 8th and 9th grade, you don't have a lot of knowledge or experience in life as a student, but he had knowledge and experience, and he passed on to me. And I'm going to tell you what I believe. He didn't lower standards for equity, he raised standards for excellence. Thank you, Lloyd Osborne, for not cheating me out of that experience. He gave me the chance to figure things out, not to spoon feed me. Keith Carey, Midland High School, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and this was what I wrote about Keith. I played for him. He was a mentor. Both of these men are men of excellence, and, I only got a minute before. I wrote, we practiced to win while he was building men. I came along at a time when family mattered and there was connection. So I want to touch on my father. When I was young, started dating, he said, your responsibility is to get that girl home safe. And then when I got a little older, he said, your job, you were born male, you're a man, your job is to protect your mother and your two sisters. That's your job as a man. This is a quote from my father. These are the women who have been assigned to you. What I'm suggesting for the board, I'm going to hit on something very controversial. It's biological males in biological females' bathrooms, locker rooms, and playing field. You say it, and I'm going to hear it's the law. Well, there was a time when slavery was the law, when women couldn't vote, and then there was prohibition. Were they right, or did they have to be changed? And for biological males to be in the bathrooms of biological females,
Thank you.
locker rooms, and athletic fields, it may be the law. Oh, that's fine.
Hi, Wendy Brand. Although this appears to fall on selectively hearing ears, I will say it anyway. And although perhaps it's quite naive of me to hope that you can change and do the right thing, I'll continue hoping in that direction. I believe everyone here desires for all students to feel safe and free to be who they believe they currently are, yet no one has a right to manipulate or coerce a child to question their own identity and upbringing. That's just plain evil. It's difficult enough to know how to treat and interact with those whom we are familiar with, i.e. a male and a female, or an adult and a child, etc. We haven't figured that part out yet, and now you want us to remember on which days a boy is now a girl or a girl is now a boy, or if they are a cat or a dog, or if we are to call them him or her or they or one of the other dozens of pronouns. And if we don't, you want to make it punishable. I can tell you now that this plan has already failed. It will continue to fail and will be disastrous to those who believe that they are right in doing this, because one day either common sense will hit them or the consequences of what they are trying to do will. These poor children are confused enough by the DIE plus crowd. Yes, I said that the way I wanted it. So these children look to you as the leaders, teachers, administrators, coaches, etc. And instead of leading them down a path that will give them a life of true fulfillment and community-mindedness, you're leading them down a path of true destruction, single-mindedness, narrow-mindedness, selfishness, and complete and utter despair, perhaps even death at their own hands. Regardless of gender or age, we are to lift up all people. We are called by our Creator to love Him and to love all He created. That is all of you, all of us, and all of them. There is not one who is greater than the other. Every life created matters. And are you so bold to think that you are greater than God and that you can take away what He created and change it to fit your mold? Heaven forbid that you go there. Our voices may not be heard by you, but they will be heard across the state and across this land. I believe that you can mark today as the beginning of your end, of your control of this school board. Mark it as the beginning of the end of evil's reign of terror in schools. Michigan is a land that is surrounded by lighthouses, and I believe we are a light to this nation. What happens in Michigan schools from here on out will likely be the birth of a better school system where truth will dominate. These children and future generations are no longer in your control, nor the control of the MDE or the NEA or other leftist organizations. Your agenda has been stamped as void. We will stand up for all children, for all people, and no one will stop us. We have the favor of the Lord God Almighty. Soon there will be 3 new faces on this board, prayerfully 4. When that happens, as it will in many other school districts, the majority of parents can begin to regain confidence in public school systems, perhaps believing once again that their children will be safe and being taught proper education, not propaganda. Repent and turn from these evil ways. You are loved, and there's still time. God bless you, and God bless America.